So what we are doing here is we are taking the whatever the cash amount will be, we're multiplying it by whatever cash should be available to pay out this tranche of debt. So we multiply it by this amount which is available, taking the minimum of that or whatever was left after the required repayments have been paid. So the difference between the opening and the closing, just like that. So we are taking the minimum of those two things. So and then we can now later on multiply that by whatever we set up here for the if statement, the cash that is available for discretionary payment. So if there's any cash available, yes, and if there is no cash, no. So in this case, we set it up there to be a yes. So we're just taking the minimum of those two there. So what we are saying here is we are taking the minimum of whatever cash sweep amount we'll be using to pay down this debt, or whatever already has been used to pay down the required the mandatory or whatever been used already for the mandatory repayment. So we take the cash sweep amount and we multiply it by the cash available to pay down this debt, or the minimum of whatever has already been used to pay down the whatever has already been used for the mandatory repayment, which is our required repayment here. So we take the minimum of those two, and that's how we calculate our discretionary repayment. We can take this all the way and fill it right with Control R. Just go double check, as you can see we have it just the way we want it to be. So for the required repayment, we are just depleting whatever amount was borrowed by 20%, or whatever will be available at the beginning of the period. And then for the discretionary repayment, we are paying 100% of the total cash available to pay down this tranche of debt, or the minimum of the required repayment that has already been made from the beginning balance. Then we just multiply that by our if statement here that says that if there is any cash available to pay down this discretionary payment. So that's exactly what we just did there. So to calculate going forward, our interest rate spread is going to be equal to, we know that we had our floating rate benchmark. So we set that here to be equal to, we go to our transaction section where we had the coupon rate, where these lenders are comfortable about. So in this case, it's 500 basis point, given the risks taken and also the jurisdictional risks as well. So we are saying that this floating rate coupon is added to a benchmark. So that's why you see B plus 500 basis point. So there is a benchmark which is additional compensation for additional risks taken, and also for jurisdictional risk. And also we also have a floating to fixed swap to say that the base rate is not always fixed, like the prime rate in Canada, which is like the base rate for Canada banks. So the prime rate is not always fixed, or in the United States we can say that it could be a 10-year US Treasury bill or a 3-month Treasury bill. It's not always fixed, so it could apply on any base rate depending on the jurisdiction that you are in. So we are saying that if the base rate is not fixed, then there must always be a swap rate included for additional risks to compensate the lenders for an additional for a premium on and above the base rate plus the margin. So that's why we have it there as we have each set of hours there as a benchmark plus 500 basis points. We have to reference that cell and we divide it by 10,000. We have it there as 5%, and then going forward for the interest rate is going to be this interest rate spread, and then we add to it the floating rate benchmark, which we have it set up here, and then we divide it again by 10,000 because we are converting it to a percentage. So to calculate the interest expense, it could be paid within the year, so it's gonna be based on the average of that interest rate, which includes the base rate plus the margin plus the swap, which is our floating rate benchmark. So we take that and we multiply it by the average of the beginning balance and the closing balance, just as we did with the line of credit. Now we can take this and fill it right with Control R. So we have it there calculated. So the next thing we want to do here is we want to account here for the term loan B. So in this case, we're going to be setting up the loan amortization here for term loan B. It's going to be equal to, so the next tranche of debt that this private equity will be paying is the term loan B. So the term loan B must be paid first before the subordinated debt. So as you see, as we move down this capital stack, we are moving from the most secure debt